All right, everybody. We are back again. You are in it with the Dunlaps, in it together with us again. I am your co-host, Deante.
And I'm Shekema.
And we are the Dunlaps.
We're the Dunlaps.
We are them, and they are us. Yes, indeed. We are back again.
What's
like
going
we never
on,
left.
y'all?
Thank y'all for joining us. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you chose to be here. So we want to thank y'all and give y'all gratitude on that. So thank y'all. So we're gonna kick this off in our tradition of talking about today in history. I want to start off by saying this time by saying we are not sponsored by these websites, nor are we affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. The information that we are sharing is for entertainment and educational purposes.
I say educational because it's never entertaining. And if you get entertained by the stuff that we share, I want you to see me personally.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. It's to grab your attention. It's to pique your thoughts. It's to add a little bit of more weight to that tool in between your two shoulders, as Cujo Goody says. So we're gonna kick it off. I will pass the microphone to you, my love.
Thank you, baby. And first of all, I want to start off the show because we gave gratitude to our listeners, but I want to give gratitude to you.
I ain't do nothing.
Yes, you did. Just being you. Just want to say thank you because this is such an amazing journey, and I'm so glad that I get to do it with you. So I just wanted to say thank you.
I shoot those up appreciations right back to you, my love.
Thank you. All right, so I want to do two today. So yesterday's was huge, so I'm going to do yesterday's, and then I'm going to do today's. Is that okay?
Let's roll with it.
All right, let's commence. All right, so yesterday, April 3rd, 1911. President William Howard Taft expels Black soldiers from San Antonio for protesting Jim Crow. And I thought, it's Texas. I got to do that, right? So, So on April 3rd, 1911, President William Howard Taft directed the U.S. Army to expel the 9th Cavalry, an all-Black unit from San Antonio, Texas. Earlier that day, the president had met with San Antonio's U.S. Congressman John Garner, who urged President Taft to expel the Black cavalrymen from the entire state of Texas because of their protest of segregated seating on the city's streetcars threatened local law and order. Ain't that something? That's your boy's favorite thing, right?
I know, right?
Immediately afterward, President Taft issued a memorandum to General Leonard Wood, the Army's chief of staff, directing the nation's highest-ranking Army official to remove the 9th Cavalry from San Antonio. 2 days later, the Black soldiers were relocated to Rio Grande City, Texas. See how that's playing into? Okay. A city near the Mexican border. Local white residents protested the arrival of the Black cavalry soldiers, claiming that Black men who volunteered to serve their country were, quote unquote, continually looking for an opportunity to exercise brutality. Facing mounting hostility from this white opposition, President Taft ultimately rescinded the order and had the Black troops return to San Antonio. White Rio Grande City residents adopted a resolution commending the decision, while white San Antonio residents were outraged. In July 1911, the Black soldiers of the 9th Cavalry were again removed from San Antonio, this time relocated to Fort Russell, Wyoming. On the same day that Representative Garner lobbied for the removal of Black soldiers from San Antonio, he announced plans for legislation that would repeal the Army Organization Act of 1866. That Reconstruction-era law had required the War Department to establish and maintain 2 Black cavalry units and 4 Black infantry units in the U.S. Army to enable Black men to serve in the otherwise all-white, segregated U.S. military. 11, the nation's army remained segregated, and Black soldiers were barred from serving in all but these 6 units. Rep. Garner's proposal, repealing the 1866 Act, would have given the War Department discretion to abolish the all-Black units and thus prevent any Black citizens from serving in the military. Representative Garner, in fact, intended for this proposed legislation to exclude Black soldiers entirely, as he believed that no high-ranking official in the military would permit Black Americans to serve if federal law did not require it. Though the bill did not pass, its proposal and the punitive treatment of Black soldiers simply fighting for civil rights reflects extreme levels of white resistance to Black military service that characterize the highest offices of government and military institutions. The EJI has more about the discrimination and violence Black veterans face in a report called "The Lynching in America Targeting Black Veterans." So I just want to talk to you about that before we move forward with the next
one. What's your thoughts on it?
Especially given that we're in Texas and I'm going to be traveling soon to that area, I felt it particularly poignant to discuss. My dad is a veteran, and he's always told me that people try to sell that myth that the military is not racist, that it's not, that, it's a band of brothers and everybody's just in there and they just, one band, one sound. But he's always told me that the military is full of racists. And if the institution or the governmental organization is full of racists, then it's going to be racism in it.
Right.
And so just the history of it, yeah, it just sounds very Texas. I'll say that.
It's just wild to me. Just the whole notion that, they stand up for something, so you remove them, when they had a specific purpose, just because, they don't, fit a political aim, and and it's crazy, and it's always shameful, particularly when when the political aspects of military deployment, come into play. It's always disappointing. You get sold this idea that they're about, freedom and, and fighting against tyranny and all of these types of things. And then you see the opposite. You see the tyranny put in place. You see the tyranny actually, it's sometimes it's just mind blowing, but that's hypocrisy, right? It's supposed to be mind blowing. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to be like, what? So I shouldn't be surprised. I should be like, yep, that, if it's hypocrisy, that makes sense, so.
Yeah. And I think the irony of, expecting for Black men and women to fight for freedoms that they don't have. Yeah. You say that they're fighting to protect your freedoms, but you dare not give them any. And so I think that the idea of them saying, you might as well stop. We'd rather you get out the army than us give you some freedom. We'd rather just not even have you in it. So, yeah. So that's one thing. And so, so I'm getting ready to do the next one. So this one is today in history. And we are talking about April 4th, 1968. And everybody under the sound of my voice probably knows exactly what this one is about. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis. So on April 4th, 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed while standing on a hotel balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. King was in the city to speak on his growing Poor People's Campaign and to support an economic protest by Black sanitation workers. About 2 months earlier, 1,300 African-American Memphis sanitation workers began a strike to protest low pay and poor treatment. When city leaders largely ignored the strike and refused to negotiate, the workers sought assistance from civil rights leaders, including Dr. King. He enthusiastically agreed to help, and on March 18th, visited the city to speak to a crowd of more than 15,000 people. Dr. King also planned a march in support. When the first attempt was violently suppressed by police, leaving one protester dead, Dr. King resolved to stage another peaceful march on April 8th. He returned to Memphis by plane on April 3rd, braving a bomb threat on his scheduled flight. Once in Memphis, he stayed at the Lorraine Hotel and gave a short speech reflecting on his own mortality. The next evening, April 4th, Dr. King was shot as he stepped out onto the motel balcony. He was rushed to a nearby St. Joseph's Hospital and pronounced dead at 7:05 p.m., leaving a nation in shock and sparking mournful uprisings in more than 100 cities across the country. Just 39 years old, Dr. King left behind a wife, Coretta Scott King, and 4 children. James Earl Ray, a white man, was later convicted of his assassination.
That's the history. And I mean, that's one of those that, unlike many of the, the points that you share from the current day in history, this one is one of the more well-known ones. And, I would like to, just have a moment of silence, because this is one of those things that, we still, reflect on to this day. So just like to have a moment of silence as we kind of acknowledge, this moment in history. I'm not, there's not a whole lot to say about it that hasn't already been said, that, hasn't already been expressed. What do you, I mean, at least from my perspective, it's, it's always a somber thing, but from your perspective, what's on your mind?
Just thinking about, so, one of the things that David said in the Psalms was, oh Lord, teach us to number our days. We're only here for a finite amount of time. And I think he understood that. And I think that he had made peace with the fact that his calling was going to necessitate him giving up his life, and there are very few people on the planet who are willing to give up their life for anything. And so we live in fear and we live in bondage. But the one sure thing is that everybody's born to die.
Yep.
And Christ said, if those who would try to save their lives will lose them. And those who are willing to give up their lives will live forever, And so knowing that that was also his philosophy, and in the Pauline epistles, it talks about being, absent from the body is present with the Lord. So there are times when you feel as a believer in this evil place that it's probably better if I go, And so if that is your worldview, if that's your epistemology, your ontology, and you really believe that, like, it doesn't matter what you do to me. Because if you martyr me, I'll never die. Then I think that's where power comes in. And so my challenge for myself is always to make sure that I'm doing things that I'm willing to give it all up for. That's where you're consistently having to walk in love and believe in things greater than yourself. And for me, teaching has been one of those things. But I just think that this world will be so much of a better place if everybody could identify what they're willing to lay it all on the line for. Everybody wants to protect themselves. People are afraid to fight. But if you don't fight, you're dead anyway.
Right. If you're willing to trade your freedom for safety, you don't deserve either.
Exactly. And that we talked about yesterday how the guy on the campus of North Carolina A&T went to their campus to terrorize those students, right? They caught him with hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and a variety of different types of firearms, and he was bonded out that same night. Which means that he did not go on his own volition. Somebody sent him there, right? He might have agreed to do it, but it's bigger than him. Because what judge let somebody out of jail on the same night that they went to go shoot up an HBCU, right? And so it's those fear tactics. It's those fear tactics that, have been used to suppress and oppress us for all these hundreds of years. But at this point, you don't have anything to lose. Because playing nice and trying to save yourself hasn't worked so far. So what's next?
So It's a crazy world we live in.
So can I share my mug before we? This is my Shirley Chisholm mug that I got from the Schomburg in Harlem. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. That's my philosophy.
That's dope.
Just want to share that tonight.
That's
In
awesome.
case y'all are wondering, like, some in my Black girl feelings.
Awesome. All right. Kind of switching gears for a little bit. You know, I had a couple that I thought would be noted, that'd be, you know, worthy notes for today and for, you know, current day in history. You know, I have a couple too. You know, I think it's a couple from the third and today that are worth talking about. I won't go into detail on them, but I will just, you know, call out the main headline. So April 3rd, 1966, is the first spacecraft to orbit the moon, which was the Soviet space probe Luna 10, to become the first spacecraft to orbit the moon. April 3rd, 1973 was the first cell phone call was made by Marvin Cooper, considered the father of the modern cell phone, made the first cell phone call on a New York street. And current day, again, all of these are pretty good. Microsoft was formed on this day in 1975. Microsoft is founded as a partnership between Bill Gates at 19 years of age and Paul Allen, age of 22, in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The company was created to develop the basic programming environment for the MIT's Altair 8800. MITS was headquartered in Albuquerque, so Gates and Allen moved there from Boston to launch their company. Eventually, they decided to move Microsoft to the Seattle, Washington area, where both men were from originally and met in high school. So that was interesting. I mean, I don't know how I got tongue tied there. I think I was thinking and trying to read at the same time. I don't always work one track mind. All right. April 4th, 1994, Netscape was born. Those of us who are in the early stage of email may have had a Netscape account. I know one of my first email accounts was Netscape. I think actually my first professional email account was actually Netscape. Let's see. Ironically, 19 years to the day after Microsoft was formed, Mark Andreessen and Jim Clark create the Mosaic Communications Corporation, which would later be named Netscape Communications Corporation. Andreessen had developed the Mosaic web browser while working at the National Center for Supercomputer Applications, which was in NCSA at the University of Illinois. Some real interesting technological developments and explosions in the market, so to speak, on this day, April 4th, several in multiple points in history. Actually, kind of going back a couple of days, I won't go into detail, but actually the April kicks off pretty big when it comes to technology. So April was a big month for technology. A lot of things happened within the first 4 days. A lot of major things happened in April. So if you're interested, those of you out there under the sound of our voices, take a look at thisdayinhistory.com if you would like to see more of some of the technological advancements that came to market in these first couple of days of April, because there was some pretty big developments.
Wow.
But with that being said, I guess we can roll into the topic of the day.
So today's show is all about, let's be real.
Let's be real.
Let's just be real. Because y'all play too much. And so, listen, America is really like, what's happening here? Is this like the fall of the American empire? Like, what's happening? Man. That's one of the things we're going to talk about. I guess I'll start by just talking about this whole Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark situation. Now, y'all know.
Lord, let's be real. Mercy.
Let's be real. So first of all, Caitlin Clark did not win the championship, but she swept like all of the possible awards except for the most, I think they gave Angel Reese the most, it's not most valuable player, but she won something about that particular game, right? But Caitlin Clark just got a whole nother award after that because everybody was in their feelings and they tried, like, she was crying. So let me get my cup. And what's in my cup? What am I drinking?
Somebody's tears, I'm sure.
So, stay salty, my friends. Here's the issue. In this Black body that I live in, I have had countless times where people have made microaggressions towards me. They've made all kind of passive aggressive statements and actions towards me. They have been dismissive of me, basically because I'm an uppity negress, okay? And when I match energy, then all of a sudden I'm the angry one. I'm not professional.
They're the victim.
I'm ghetto, right? No, what you're upset about is that I had the wherewithal to figure out exactly how you were trying to belittle me. And I let you know, don't do that.
Or you flipped it back.
Don't play in my face, right? Because I can actually spell things you can't even pronounce. So don't do that. Let's be real, okay? So I want to talk about this whole double standard, everything that's going on with these players. And it's like, first of all, okay, I see a lot of people saying like, hey, if they were men, nobody would be complaining about it. Okay, that's a point. But there's a nuance to this, right? And that's what we talk about, intersectionality, because their two quote unquote oppressions as women don't trump Angel Reese's oppression as a Black woman. That's just not the same thing.
Right.
And so I get that they would have never done that to men just in general. But if you don't think that there was racism behind this, like, there's no such thing as vagina solidarity in real life, right? Y'all know that. Like, y'all know that the P hat people still voted for Donald Trump in real life, right? Let's be real. And so I want to talk about that. Like,
it blows my mind, how this, how we pick and choose what we want to talk about, right? Sport, we always talk about how we're so competitive, we're super competitive and all of this. And that's this, I mean, it's ingrained in American culture to be competitive. It's the A personality types that run everything. These are the in your face, you can't see me,
yeah.
And
I can't stand that, by the way.
We glorify that type of bravado. We've bravado is like, I mean, it's, look at the movies and cinema. There's nothing humble about anything we do, nothing humble about our culture at all. And the simple fact that I'm like, they're ball players. What are we doing here?
Yep.
It's like, let them have their thing. And now I wonder what would have happened if the young lady would have responded, would say something like, I'll see you next season or something. It was that, but it was that whole notion. They tried to make it seem like she took some type of high road.
Right.
But
right.
I'm like, no, she got shut down. She was in her feelings. But then nobody said anything when she did the same thing. Nobody said anything when she told another athlete to shut up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
because that was nasty.
I'm like, if that's like the most classless, trashy, really?
What did she say? Like, you down 15 points, shut up.
Right. And it's like, and I'm like, but it's like the nerve to sit here and cast these judgments. I'm like, what's really going on here?
Right,
like,
right.
It's like, it seems, it's like, where's the hook?
Right.
Like, because this is why is this a big deal now?
And I saw a TikTok creator actually, and I posted the video on my personal page, and he was talking about how the whole John Cena, you can't see me hand, he appropriated that. And he appropriated that from a Black rapper.
It's like, it's all in sport. It's sports. It's bad. It's like, have you ever seen like a real basketball game? Like, that's, they're not even professional athletes. They're college athletes. I mean, they don't get paid. Let them do what they do. It's just, it doesn't hurt the game. It's like, it doesn't take away the fact that they won. Now, okay, say for instance, if the young lady would have been doing the same thing during the game and they lost, I wonder what the media spin would have been then. You
That's
know,
true.
I wonder how that would have been presented or talked about then. But it boggles my mind at how many people have taken to this. And maybe this is them bringing attention to, I don't know, maybe they're bringing, trying to bring attention to women's sports, maybe trying to get more people interested in the game and,
Okay, let's be real.
bring a controversy, because let's be real, controversy sells.
Yeah,
That's
but
what put asses
that
in the
ain't.
stands.
Yeah,
You
but that
know,
ain't why them people doing that.
I'm
They just racist.
I'm just pulling straws. I'm just like, what are
They're
we
racist.
doing
These are
here?
the same people whose ancestors went sold postcards and at lynchings.
So I'm
They
like,
don't need a rationale to show up and support something.
and it's
They
and
can
it's
put an ad in the paper with no internet and get 10,000 people to come watch a black man get hanged to burn. They really don't need.
and just the whole idea of because I reading some of the commentary they said about the young lady from LSU. She's too much, she's too this, and she's too that. Yet there's the other young lady who is out here just doing, who's out here trash talking, being brash, cocky. Okay, she's good, but if she's good and she's supposed to be, if she's that good, that she's held to a standard where she can do this, where another young lady who's just as good, it's like, so where's the difference? Why is her dribble, why is her handle, which is equal, different from this other young lady's handle? So if they're equally, if skillful skill, they're on the same level. What's the in both of them? Now I can understand if you're holding both of them to the same account.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're cooking with gas here. But the fact that she was congratulated and actually, congratulated and celebrated for her bravado.
Because
she's out there. She's out there. She's doing this and she's dominating the game. And then it's
big
on
energy for her team.
The other young lady is, she's too this, she's too that, she's too much this, and I was glad that she said what she said at the press conference.
Who gonna check me, boo?
I'm doing this for all the young ladies that look like me. That's from where I'm from.
It's bigger than me.
And so it's just, it just blows my mind. But then it's like, let's be real here. Wow, I get it, but aren't there bigger things going on in the world?
So can I tell you how much I love Angel Reese? So, like, first of all, who gonna check me, boo? That was basically her message. The second message was when President Jill Biden invited both teams. Now, normally only the winning team goes to see the president.
Right.
See how that works? This year, both teams, because they're going to stick together. They're going to stick beside each other. That's number one. So Angel Reese said, okay, Auntie Michelle Obama, can the LSU come celebrate at your house? So let's see how it goes down.
It's just...
Y'all still going to vote for Joe and Jill? I'm asking for a friend.
It's wild, man. It's like, I'm just, I'm like, okay, they and then it's like it's confusing because they'll build this up like it's a big deal, but then they'll come right back and say it's just a game. I'm like, okay, which one is it? It's either a big deal. Anyway. It's either a big deal or it's not. It's either
when
just
they
a
win,
game.
It's a big deal. When you win, I didn't care anywhere.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm just like, your hypocrisy showing.
I didn't really want that. I just pretended like I did.
And it's like, really?
Speaking of pretending, what your boy up to? I heard he got indicted, but is he like actually incarcerated? Like, what's going on? Let's be real.
I don't know. It is again. I'm like, okay, what's the spin? What's the hook?
Where he at? Who house he at?
I'm like, is many things that this man is so far, so-called illegally done. It's like, okay, it take y'all how long?
Listen, the only document secure in this country was Jeffrey Epstein flight list. That's it.
And I'm like, okay, I'm like, okay, I get it, but that should have, this kind of should have been happening. It's like y'all acting like y'all just now finding this out. It's like this stuff has been talked about for years, and it's like, why now? Why now? So hitting back to the the show title, Let's Be Real.
Let's be real.
What y'all got me looking at that y'all want to hide from me? Because y'all been talking about this whole man's presidency and ain't nobody did nothing. And if that was a big deal then, why is it a big deal now? And so I'm like, okay, you know, and I'm listening to his supporters, man. And it's like the way I'm like, why is this on TV? Why are we even talking about this? It's like, you know, nobody's talking about what's really, because none of this is really affecting any average person.
Right.
No, it's like that don't take away anybody's breath. That doesn't affect anybody's bottom line. Well, maybe, you know, depending, you know, I ain't speaking for people who, you know, those who need not be spoken, you know, y'all might have things tied up with that person that, you know, so I ain't in it, don't want to deal with it. But at the same time, though, it's like, okay, what about what's happening in the world, right? You know, why, you know, it's like, you know,
it's such a distraction.
What, you know, follow the money, right? But in this one situation, nobody's following the money. They got everybody staring at Megan Thee Stallion's butt. They got, you know, they got artists on stage, you know, with, you know, with all types of Satanism.
Taylor Swift and her satanic stuff. Yeah.
You know, and it's like they got all this going on.
That girl, if she's satanic now, she been satanic. I don't know why y'all just now like, let's be real.
But nobody's talking about all these countries out here telling people, get rid of your dollars. Nobody's talking about how Russia and China just bust a move that ain't happened in 100 years.
Gang.
Nobody's talking about the Saudi prince saying, I'm not kowtowing to these people no more. Nobody's talking about these.
I don't know whose sides are thrown up. Don't like that.
Nobody's talking about these things. And I'm like, but we're talking about two young ladies who, for all intents and purposes, are not professional. So, you know, they did their thing, but why is that headline news? Yeah. You know, when countries are talking about no longer trading in dollars, when the petrodollar is about to be, you know, it's like nobody's talking about, okay, that's what's going to hit the table. Nobody's talking about how this is going to hit the grocery sales. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about, so it's like, where's the distraction? It's like, so I'm of the mindset now, was like, when they bring all this sensationalism forward, when everything is this big deal, oh, she was in her face, and this dude who did some stuff that we've been talking about for 5 years, it's like, but then you look over here.
It's the sound effects, though, babe. It's the sound effect.
That's what I'm hearing when I see this. All I hear, because it's not even. My ears don't even pick it up. I just see shapes and movements, and I have to read it to understand what's going on. I don't even hear the commentary. It just sounds like a womp, 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 you know. And it's like John Cena been doing that in wrestling forever. Nobody ever said that's so unprofessional. And he was just slamming people on their neck.
Listen, The Rock used to rock around telling everybody put your candy in, and he making a live version of Moana. He became a family star.
And we took something, and they took something that in no way, shape, or form is racist. It's not offensive. It is like, you can't see me. Like on the basketball court, it's like, listen, my handles are so good, you can't even see me. You don't even know what I'm doing. And she flipped it, and they took it and said, you know what, this will get them. And it's like and while they doing that, somebody else running away with the whole bag. They skating out the back door while we sitting over here, you know, talking about people throwing balls through a hoop.
And we knew it was coming, because then we talked about, like, a couple shows ago how they were, no, maybe we didn't, but I remember us having a conversation about how they were changing the game with the FDIC backing. Right. And about how they were going to start backing more than $250,000 for certain people in certain circumstances. And I'm like, oh, y'all trying to protect yourself. Something is coming, right? But the average person is not even paying attention to that. And
it's like, you know, presidents, these leaders in these other countries are telling their people, if you got dollars, you know, in as short as a couple weeks. And I'm like, that should be headline news. Yep. That should be, hey, folks, we got to figure something out. You know, what we gonna do if, you know, they
That's
start trading in another currency? What's that's going to do to your bottom line, to your retirement, to your gas tank, to your refrigerator? Nobody's talking about this. And it just blows my mind. I'm like, we should be like, yo, JB, what you doing, homie? Like, you know,
Yep.
You know, vice president, what we doing? Like, call your congressperson, like, and nobody's talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I turn on and I turn on the news, or I open up, you know, and I go to the news website, and that's and basketball is the headline. Young lady does onto another person in this class. It's like, really? That should have been in small print. Congratulations for the
Correct.
win.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no doubt. I mean, I will never take away from an athlete's hard work or determination to get to the top, get that win. But it's like, listen, if it fall apart, you ain't gonna have a school to go to. If it fall apart, none of that's going to matter anyway. It's only going to be history. It's going to be the last major college game that, you know. And so it's like, what's really important, and it's like, you know, let's be real. What it's like, let's be real about what we focus on versus what we should be focused on. You know, and it's like, you know, and again, you hear it's on the radio, you know, but you got to find them talking about the money situation.
That's it.
You got to have the specialist. You got to go, you know, and find that person that's on the fringes who been talking. I've been telling y'all, y'all call me crazy. You know, those are the people you got to go to hear this type of stuff.
Yep.
And it's like, before you know it, it's on you.
It's on you. Yep.
You know, and it's like, damn, while I was sitting there watching them do this, they were running out the back door with the bag.
It's the juke move. You know,
the juke move of the century. And so, and it's like, you know, and so that's where I'm just like, you know, let's be real. What is the distraction? What's the hook? What do I need to slip? What do I need to duck? Because, you know, they aren't telling us anything. You know, in the mass media, they're just on that. They'll say a little bit about it, but then they'll go right back over to entertainment. You know, it's like we you know, it's like I don't know. It just blows my mind sometimes. And, you know, I don't want to take nothing from nobody. I'm not saying that what's going on with former President Trump, you know, shouldn't be going on. I'm not saying that the young ladies at LSU didn't deserve their win. I'm not saying none of that. I'm just saying the things that we're talking about in relation to priorities. It just, let's be real. Like, where's the priority? You know, in the land where capitalism rules, that should have been the main headline. Like, how we gonna fix this? What we gonna do? What's the next move? You know, like, people should have been aware of this. Not the people who most people call crazy and on the fringes, but that should have been a mainstream topic.
Right. And this joker, he done pled not guilty to 34 felony counts for falsifying business records linked to the 2016 hush money payments. Like, are you serious? And I'll go back to it again. Even the guy who was going to shoot up the HBCUs yesterday, that didn't make like big time, like,
right.
Also, I just wanted to what have you heard about us having a serial killer here in Austin?
No, I ain't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
Again, you don't hear nothing about
that.
They
keep finding bodies in Lady Bird Lake. And it's always so there's apparently a serial killer here, and I think there are about like 3 more cities where there are men. I just assume it's men, but it could be a woman, it could be a trans, it could be anything at this point. But they're killing young men and dumping their bodies into bodies of water. And that was the 3rd body they found in Austin in recent days, and they call him the Rainy Street Ripper.
Wow.
So let me see if this is the right one. So there's one called, there's a serial killer that says 7 bodies have been recovered from Lady Bird Lake over the past 10 months. And that
is
the last
insane.
person they found was Jonathan Honey. He was 33 years old.
Man.
A serial killer in Austin, which I'm not surprised. Like,
I mean, it's always a surprise when you hear it, though. You know, it's like Austin, though. But again, I've been here for a while, and maybe I just been, in my own little world, but that ain't been something that's been, a common topic since I've been here, but again, you got so much, you got so much going on, there's so much distraction, it ain't no telling what's been swept under the rug. There's no telling what's been, what's happened and been hidden, or just, maybe it's been whispered and not, and not spoken as it should have been.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes it's like, man, we had to get to a point where we got to figure out, okay, what's important, man. I'm not saying some of these things are not, but there's always a list of priorities and there's degrees of importance. And it's like I don't know. It just seems like I don't know.
Yeah, and there was an article from back home. There was a father, 42 years old, found rolled up in like saran wrap, almost like, and they said his death was accidental overdose. And it's like, but you rolled yourself up, like you OD'd and then rolled yourself up and tried to hide yourself. How? So yeah, and so then people are saying, well, maybe the people who were with him just, that he overdosed and they panicked, so they rolled him up. And I'm like, they took the time to have plastic and roll his body up. Like, how y'all just regularly go get drugs? He had 3 different drugs in his body, including fentanyl. And it's like, so they just regularly ride around with saran wrap enough to wrap a dead body. That doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. And so I think people,
let's be real.
Yes, let's be real, because they said that he had a history of substance abuse, but he had gotten clean. But I'm like, okay, what they're trying to do is look at your past. And if you have a history of something like that, then that's easy. That's easy for them to say, well, you relapsed and you died, And so I'm just, the times that we're living in, I just want everybody to be careful, to pay attention to your surroundings. But this Austin serial killer typically likes men in their 30s. So just watch yourself out there in these streets. And they keep finding them in Lady Bird Lake. They've been like strangled and drowned or something. Man, that's why I don't go in lakes like that. Like lakes like Lady Bird, I don't do it, because you'll come. Ain't no telling what's in those lakes. We got our own version of like Lanier at home. I don't even.
No, won't go nowhere near it.
Speaking of, happy 404 day, ATL peeps.
Happy 404. Yes, indeed. But there's a lot going on.
Sure is.
There is a lot going on.
Get your life together. Better get your mind right.
Open your eyes and get to peel them bananas, man. Make sure you know what's going on around you at all times, because this is a big world, but it impacts us all, man. And
it's another war about to pop off, because Finland just joined NATO, and they did that to counter Russia.
See, but nobody's talking about it again.
And chestnut checkers.
That's not something that's being talked about. It's just they're not talking about all these countries, banding together to come up with their own currency, and it's like they're playing a different ball game. It's like nobody's talking. No, it's again chestnut checkers, and it's like when you're so wrapped up in entertainment and sensationalism and what this person said, and it's just it just becomes this. It just becomes a joke sometimes, and it's like you easily skim over these major headlines that really should be major conversation topics. But
speaking of the headline that you talked about, tell me about your girl saying that Donald Trump was like Jesus.
Oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lord, they had her in an interview talking about some shit. He's on the level of Nelson Mandela and Jesus.
How so?
I'm like, really? Like, what kind of a stretch are you? It's like that. It's like that's not even almost the same.
Wow.
It's not even almost the same.
Wow.
It's like real. It's like, so you're trying to say this is, it's like documented fact that this dude did illegal activity, whereas the other 2 gentlemen you were saying were essentially innocent. They were innocent. So you're talking about a dude individual who has documented facts of doing illicit illegal activity versus 2 who were innocent. That's not the same. This is one isn't false, one is a true accusation versus false
Yeah,
accusations.
that's not even a good equivalency.
And the stuff that the stuff for the people that support him, the stuff they say, they get on TV and they say these things, and I'm like, they let this person get on the TV and actually say this. I can't remember who said it, but I was watching something, I think it was on CNN, where a gentleman was saying that his mug shot is going to be on the level of Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Cash, all of these famous artists who was arrested for whatever reason or another, and their mug shots made them more famous. And they're like, and like, just going to be there's going to be college students with mug shots of Donald Trump on their wall. And I'm like, that's not, like, these false equivalencies have to stop. It is not the same.
They want to be oppressed so bad.
I'm like, I don't even I understand you. I understand you respect them, you admire this person, but there's something about deifying a person that has no grounds for deification. Like, this dude, like, literally, what has this man done to benefit anybody other than himself? You know, I mean, yeah, he's done some things. He may have done some things for people here and there, but who knows who was paid to say what? You know, I'm just like, it just blows. Like I said, some of the things, it is stranger than fiction. Reality is stranger than fiction sometimes. And it's like, sometimes it's like living in a comic book sometimes.
I mean, this is the Twilight Zone.
It is bizarre world at the very least. And
this is actually the Twilight Zone.
It's like what they say, you got to believe the exact opposite, because
because the scammer's gonna scam.
Oh, so I don't even know what else to top with that. That's just where my head is at today. I have been trying to keep my head level, just thinking about some of these things, looking at what what's being talked about versus what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, are we? I mean, where's it's just, I don't know. I sometimes I'm just like, what in the world is going on? Literally. And it's just, again, stranger than, the truth is stranger than any fiction you can read, because these are real people making some crazy decisions, doing some really outlandish things. And
I wanted to talk about that lady that got caught for drugs. What was the I forgot the lady's name. I have to find the article. Maybe talk about it next time. But she just got caught doing those drug trafficking schemes. She was like a sheriff or a representative or something like that.
Whoa.
Let me see if I can find it. Because I was like, now, ma'am, you know better.
Again.
You know better. Let me see if you see the lady, and of course I'm searching for drug trafficking and can't find her face nowhere. Right? They got mugshots of Black people, they got everything else. And this lady, she got caught drug trafficking, like she was doing it for 6 years, and she was like an elected official. I don't know. Let me see.
I think I vaguely remember that.
We're not going off the air until I find that. Like, that's crazy.
I think I vaguely remember that. I thought I remember seeing that reading that somewhere. I can't remember where I saw that.
They're really doing a good job of hiding her face.
Yeah, that one was pretty crazy.
They're really doing a good job of hiding her face. I just think that's interesting, because I'm looking at all this stuff and can't find anything about her, but she clearly did it. And it's I've seen it several times on social media. I'm going to find her. We're going to make her famous. So while I look for her, I wanted to talk about that new show that I've been listening to on the new podcast called Sanctified.
Okay.
And I love it. I just want to say that it's from Deborah Joy Winans, who is a member of the Winans family. She's Debbie Winans' daughter, I believe. And she is on the show with another young lady. I need to find her name. Let me pull her up right fast, because I want to give them their shout out on the show as well. But they are doing a phenomenal job, and they're basically talking about all things Black women and Christianity. So it could be your role in the church and ministry. It could be talking about why you left ministry, like because you got burned out or whatever. You feel like, okay, I could do God, but I can't do this. You know what I'm saying? And so I love the show. And I just want to say that if you are listening, I want to ask you to tune in and join me. It's called, so I'll read you the caption. It says, Sanctified boldly centers the stories of Black women for whom the spiritual status quo is no longer enough. Sanctified makes space for women to interrogate, lament, resist, and triumph over the church's double standards that have deeply impacted them. Through stories and conversations, Sanctified is a pathway to communal reflection and healing for women who are churched, unchurched, and find themselves somewhere in between. From the pulpit to the pew to the parking lot, this show amplifies the thoughts, trials, and triumphs of women fighting, figuring out their faith authentically. Nothing is taboo, shame is unwelcome, and grace abounds. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to put the link in the chat for those of you who are on our live show. And I just want to shout them out. Like, I feel like they're doing a phenomenal job, and I'm down with anything that promotes growth. And I'm down with anything that promotes people just, really thinking about what they believe and why they believe it, and not just blindly following stuff. Like, it's just the time is out for that. You know what I'm saying? The time is out for that. And so that's what I wanted to share before we go.
Awesome.
I'm gonna find that drug trafficking lady too.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I remember reading that. I can't remember where I read that. But I think I know what you're talking about.
Because I'm like, why is her picture not more prominent? Like, I'm doing all these searches on drug trafficking, and I know she did it, and it's like, why we can't find her picture? Why is her mugshot not front and center like she had a weed charge? I need that same kind of energy.
Right. It's fascinating. Fascinating what gets talked about. Again, what we focus on versus what we should be focused on.
Yep, I'm definitely gonna find her because I'm a researcher type. So I'm definitely gonna find her, and I'm gonna share it because yep, I'm gonna find you.
Well, I think I don't know. What you think? What's somebody else on your mind? I think we may have.
I think that's it. I'm actually hungry, so I hope you'll go sponsor me some a meal.
Always.
It'll probably be real nice.
Yep.
Why you did it like that? Look like, stop begging.
No. No indication of the begging.
I love you.
I love you back. I love you too, with my whole heart. Well, all right, folks. I think that's it for tonight. We're gonna wrap it up a little early. I think we had a lot condensed in that one conversation. It wasn't a whole lot of silent space in that one. But it was a lot to discuss. I know I ranted a little bit. I didn't say everything I want to rant about, but some things I read, some things are a little better. Some secrets are better kept in school. So if you know, you know. Well, I think we're gonna stick a fork in this one, call it done. I think we're gonna be back, same black time, same black channel.
Indeed.
6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can find the streaming at that time live on Facebook. And if you missed the live streaming, you can catch us on Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your streaming pleasure from.
We'll be there.
I am your co-host, Deante.
And I'm Shekema.
And we are the Dunlaps. And we
Dunlaps,
thank you all for getting into it with us, because together we are better.
Good night, y'all.
Good night, y'all.